Hi, so today I'd love to talk about some, I would say, major life lessons I've learned in my 20s. So these all come from personal experience, and of course, I don't really consider them as things I wish I knew before I was in my 20s, and that's because maybe if someone told me all of this was true and I didn't live these experiences by myself, maybe I would never have really understood and really know and absorbed all of these lessons. Okay, so life lesson life lesson number one is you can't please everyone. And this happens literally in every single area of your life, whether it's in your workplace, whether it's your home, your family life, a business, and even yourself. Sometimes you cannot always please yourself and your own definition of success. And sometimes you're just not perfect, and that's all right. I think that the most important thing is to define that sometimes there are choices we make, and we're making them because our intuition is right. We know exactly why we should take those options. And we really learn the boundary of when we should listen to other people and, gather some knowledge from their own experiences, and then understand when that is over and when our own experience begins. So it's normal that some people will not agree with a lot of things you do in your life, and that's okay. In the beginning, I think it's very difficult for you to really accommodate this feeling because a lot of us are kind of people pleasers. But I feel like in my 20s, I came to this place where I'm very confident in my choices now. I know exactly when I'm just being stubborn or when I'm just trusting my own guts and going for it. Lesson number two is that, people will literally comment every single thing you do, and you're going to be lucky if they do that in your face. Once again, this literally happens everywhere. People will comment all of your life choices, all of your lifestyle choices, the way you live your life, the things you eat, the way you work out, your career choices, the way you kind of manage your routines. They're going to comment on your dog, your marriage, the place you live, your financial options, the way you manage your expenses, the clothing you wear. People will comment everything, and sometimes they will just not make those comments in your face. So people will talk about you behind your back, and unfortunately, that's normal as well. And that's also something I had to live with. I now kind of just accept it, and I understand it exists. I try as much as possible to not let that influence my choices or even the way I see people in general, because this is kind of a general human issue. But of course, it really allows me to filter the people I trust and the people I speak with about personal issues. Por que parece correr maratona? Another lesson I learned in my 20s is that letting people go is normal, and sometimes it's really, really necessary. I feel that especially after college, life gets very different, and some people just don't have anything in common anymore, and that's okay. And sometimes, people can leave a mark in your story, and they can leave a mark even in your personality and the way you see things and the way you treat people, and then they just have to move on with their lives and make different choices and go to different places, and that's okay. You can still cherish all of those memories without just grabbing onto those people and grabbing onto those memories. And I think that's just a big part of growing up, and I feel like it's especially intense in your 20s because that's just such a big stage when life becomes so different and people's lives become so different after college. And that's something I really experienced. And in the beginning, it was a bit hurtful because sometimes it's very difficult to understand that you may grow in a different way than other people. And while that may still make some of your friendships solid, some other friendships will literally fall apart because of that difference. Once again, that's okay. Another thing I learned is that the best skill you'll ever learn is to become a more tolerant human being. Out of all the things that are difficult to learn in life, I believe that one of the most difficult ones is to be really empathetic, not judging people, and just understand that people are going through things in their lives. And because of that it's very important to be tolerant of people, to be tolerant of their mistakes, their choices, and just instead of judging every single thing they do, just wonder whether that really affects you. And if it does not affect you, just let it go. Tied to this lesson is another lesson, which is everyone is literally always going through something in their lives all the time. If you think you're going through something right now, you're kind of not alone in the process. Everyone is going through something. Of course, those things may be different for many people. Some people may be going through relationship issues or mental health issues or physical health issues or family issues. But most people are always going through something. Most people are always struggling with something. And that's basically part of our human condition. And when you realize that the people you meet and the people you interact with are going through something, and you are not the one that should be judging whether that's valid or not, once again, you become more tolerant and you understand that if you give space to those people to feel what they have to feel and you're there for them, that means that when you go through something as well, you are kind of increasing your chances that that person will be there for you too. However, and this is also another life lesson, even though you should be tolerant of other people's issues and you should respect that everyone is going through something, that doesn't mean those people have to be in your life all the time. If they're becoming toxic, it's perfectly fine for you to stay away from those people. And that's because there comes a time in your life where you really establish the boundary of, this is toxic, I need to get out of this situation. Although I hold no grudge against this person and I literally understand where they're coming from. However, staying in this situation is toxic and is damaging for me and I need to stay away. Another thing I learned in my 20s, and this one is, kind of ironic taking into account the nature of this channel, is that being common and being content with what you have and with what you are may be actually better than being overly ambitious. And I think this is something that I just started to get in my late 20s and not in my early 20s. And I think that a lot of that comes from the fact that when you are involved in an academic environment, in a college environment, there's so much competition. There's so much, the hustling culture is so ingrained in college environment that you really start absorbing, all of that notion that in order to be successful and in order to be the best version of yourself, you need to always push forward. You always need to hustle. And then when you leave that environment and you kind of have more of a routine, you get maybe a stable job or not, but you spend a lot of more time with yourself and your thoughts, that's when you really start questioning all of that hustling, whether it's good for you, whether it's not good for you at all. And for me, this is one of the most recent life lessons for me, is that I actually feel happier when I'm not struggling so much with being better. Also tied to this is the fact that, not having all of your life figured out by the end of your 20s is pretty normal. A lot of people who know me tell me they believe I have my whole life figured out. I know what I'm doing. I know exactly what I want from life. And that's not true because I still struggle with kind of my life purpose and why am I here and what am I doing? And did I make the right life choices? I even question a lot whether I should have gone into law school or not. So I kind of question my whole academic path almost on a daily basis. But I try as much as possible to never do that, while coming from a place of pain and a place of unhappiness. I just question my choices in the way that I try as much as possible to see whether there's something I can still do about it, and questioning whether me questioning my choices comes from a place of me feeling like I'm falling into a routine and I need something new, or whether that question is actually relevant to the subject of me maybe liking something better than I like law. And the same thing happens for everyone else. I know very little people in their late 20s who feel like they're in control of their lives. So not having everything figured out is okay, and probably you'll never have everything figured out, and that's normal. The next one is you need way less people in your life than you thought you needed. Once again, it comes from being young and it comes from college culture. But as you grow a little bit older than your early 20s, I feel like you really start understanding who are the people who are important to you, as well as what is the type of person, what is the personality that actually matches with mine, and which people are actually toxic to me and they literally add no value or happiness to my life. And as you kind of make your own group of people and you feel very confident in that group of people, you realize that having more friends or a larger circle of acquaintances isn't really necessary for your happiness at all. Another lesson I really learned in my 20s is that having more money definitely does not mean you're happier. Having more money does not definitely mean that you feel more in control of your life, or that you feel more successful, or that you feel even more at peace with your finances. So for me, and this is so interesting because as I look at my whole financial scenario from my 20s to my late 20s, I feel like I only felt financially successful when I was on top of my money, in control of my money, independently of the amount of money that was actually in my bank account. So having great financial habits, great financial health does not mean a larger number, a bigger number in your bank account. And this is something that in my early 20s, I believed, like, if I have more money, I'm going to feel more comfortable. If I have more money, I'm going to feel more in control. And then that was not true. I feel more in control, more comfortable when I'm on the top of my financial habits, my financial routine, and not specifically just because there's a bigger number in my bank account. And finally, and this one is really important as well, a big thing I learned is that we really have to stop judging change. So we really have to stop thinking that changing is bad. And this is one of the things that I really never understood. And as I get older, I understand it even less. When someone changes or they make a different decision or they kind of overrule a past decision and move on to something else new that is different and that is new, most people have a very negative reaction to that change. And what I learned is that change is actually positive and is actually very intelligent because it means you're questioning your own beliefs, you're questioning your past trains of thought. You are questioning the person you were a couple of years ago, and that's actually very healthy because you are not the person you were 2 years ago or 1 year ago. I for sure know I'm very different from what I was 6 months ago. So if I'm not changing my decisions and I'm not changing my outlook on life and my lifestyle, despite the fact that I'm changing as a person, I don't really believe that's healthy. I really like to embrace that change. And I like as much as possible to tell people and to tell myself as well that every time I make a different decision or I move on to a different option, that's because I'm just growing as a person, and that's great. Okay, so these are all the life lessons, but before I go, I just want to leave you with a word from our sponsor, Brilliant. If you're interested in science, maths, and technology, I highly recommend taking a class on scientific thinking. The kind of skill that is at the foundation of everything, and it's such a great skill for you to learn before you even think about mastering other skills. And you can learn all about scientific thinking with Brilliant. Brilliant is an interactive learning platform that teaches about math, science, computer science, and many other subjects. The whole concept behind Brilliant is to allow you to be very hands-on, so you can learn a lot of new things without ever having to memorize things or read entire textbooks. And if you're like, oh, I'm really not that much into science, you just wait, and that's because Brilliant has more to it than it looks like. For instance, you can learn more about making decisions, problem solving, resource trade-offs, how to organize information, and you need literally no previous knowledge for that. And that's the beauty of Brilliant. They introduce you to science concepts by showing you how it works in the world around you. So you never have to say again that you're terrible at math or that you don't understand how physics work. And that's because that shouldn't be a handicap for you, because you just need the right resources and the right tools to start getting it. So if you want to sign up for Brilliant, there's a 20% off discount if you click the link down below or if you click the button that's on the screen right now. I really hope you've enjoyed today's video, and I will see you next week. Bye guys!